Welcome to story 1 out of 3, which is called Mr. Tall and the Big Surprise, written by the same artists. Every morning, Mr. Tall woke up in a bad mood. Could you guess why? Because his legs are just too long. How unfortunate to be so very tall, he mutters to himself, looking down at his long legs, making a mounting under the bedclothes. You can imagine the problems he has when he goes for a swim in Mr. Greedy's pool. Splash. Crash. It's just not easy with such long legs. And he also has problems at the cinema. He has to buy several tickets because his legs took up so many seats. On this particular day, Mr. Tall had bought 5 tickets, and he was just settling down to watch a film when he heard a small voice. "Please, could you move a little? I can't see the screen." He turned, and there behind him was Miss Tiny. She looked so small in her enormous seat, and all of a sudden Mr. Tall felt extremely sad that he was spoiling the film for her. He was so sad that he left the cinema with tears running down his cheeks. Oh dear. It just so happened that Miss Magic was passing. Being Magic, she already knew why Mr. Tall was sad. She spoke some magic words. The next morning, for the very first time, Mr. Tall woke up and stretched his legs. "Short legs? It's a miracle," he cried. Delighted, Mr. Tall rushed off to show his friends his new short legs. "Good morning, Mr. Strong," said the no longer tall Mr. Tall. "Are you planning to eat all those eggs?" "My little man," replied Mr. Strong, "these eggs are for making a cake." And off he hurried, without having recognized Mr. Tall after all. Oh dear. Miss Somersault was also in too much of a rush to realize that the no longer tall person was in fact Mr. Tall. She was also rushing off to make a cake. With a ladder? What a strange way to make a cake. Mr. Tall couldn't help wondering why everyone was making cakes. But luckily at that moment, along came Miss Chatterbox. She was more happy to stop and chat about it. And so they were all busy getting a big birthday surprise ready for Mr. Tall. She finished, quite out of breath. "A surprise? For me?" cried Mr. Tall, delighted. "Not for you," exclaimed Mr. Chatterbox, for once almost lost for words. "For Mr. Tall." Of course, making a birthday cake for Mr. Tall isn't easy. The friends had used mountains of eggs, sacks of flour, buckets of cream, a bar full of icing, and a whole tree of cherries. Perched on the top of a long ladder, Miss Somersault was putting the last candles onto the cake. At that moment, Mr. Tall arrived at the party. Everyone gave him a strange look. Nobody knew who this small, round person was. "It's me," he announced, "Mr. Tall." But nobody believed him. Well, would you? "1, 2, 3, tall," said a voice from high above their heads. Everyone looked up, and there, in a shower of stars, Miss Magic, and beneath her, Mr. Tall was tall once again. "Happy birthday, Mr. Tall," cheered everyone, as Mr. Tall began to cut his delicious-looking, very tall cake. But there was one other surprise to come. A bed that was just the right size for Mr. Tall. What a wonderful birthday present. Mr. Tall yawned, stretched out his long legs, and tested his new bed. Perfect. Mr. Tall thanked his friends, and everyone joined in the party. There was more cake than even Mr. Greedy could eat, and balloons for everyone, from the tallest to the very smallest. "Next time you go to the cinema, just don't sit in front of me," giggled Miss Tiny. Time for story 2.